In an update for today, Tuesday, March 17, 2020, as part of the process to keep the community of St. Martin informed about the latest developments and the government's COVID-19 preparedness, prevention, mitigation, and response measures. After yesterday's meetings, the decision to close schools from tomorrow, Wednesday, March 18th, has been made. This will be for 2 weeks. This will be done in order to stop the process of the spread within schools, as well as to be able to monitor in the event that cases have been identified. The decision was also made to shut down all non-essential services to mitigate the spread of COVID-19. However, this was done allowing this morning for the stakeholders to be able to plan how this would be executed. This will go into effect as of tomorrow, Wednesday, March 18th, 2020 at 12 a.m. for 2 weeks or 14 days. As some of you may be well aware, this decision has been making its rounds via social media, and as in the past, I felt it necessary to ensure that the public is duly and officially informed of all updates. Thereby, this early morning update via all media. I also take this opportunity to inform you that as of this morning, I was informed that St. Martin has its first positive COVID-19 case. Recently, a male local resident of St. Martin traveled to the UK via Miami. Upon his return, he called 914, and on Sunday, March 15th, samples were taken and tested by our contact lab in Guadeloupe. This sample is one of 5 that I mentioned during my discussion in Parliament yesterday, which were being monitored by CPS. All of the samples have tested negative. A second confirmatory test will be carried out by the RIVM in the Netherlands in order for the case to be properly confirmed. As I've also mentioned in past broadcasts and statements to the public, a first test must always be corroborated by a second test to be positively called a COVID-19 case. As such, we will await the result of said test. CPS has already started contact tracing, and the resident is in quarantine and has been currently and is still self-isolating and will continue for the next 14 days. I would also like to inform that the travel restrictions that were announced that would start today, Tuesday, will change also quite drastically. As of today, only St. Martin residents with a valid ID or proof of registration will be allowed to travel to St. Martin until Friday, March 20th, 2020. So I will repeat, while international airlines have been blocked, regional airlines are still able to come in until today. However, as of tonight at 12 a.m., so tomorrow morning, no flights will be coming in unless to bring in St. Martin residents and to allow persons who are on the island to leave the island. So there doesn't need to be a mad rush. The airlines will be making the necessary arrangements to allow for visitors to leave. The KLM and Air France are currently picking up passengers as we speak. However, it has been proven to be a bit difficult for some of, especially our Dutch residents, to get on board these KLM flights. So I'd like to announce that all St. Martin residents should have valid ID of St. Martin or proof of registration to be able to be allowed onto such flights to return to St. Martin. That restriction for even St. Martiners will be until Friday at 12 p.m. The reason for this is to allow us to be able to assess who are in the country and to avoid bringing in more suspected cases. This does not apply to passengers who are traveling to St. Martin at the invitation of government of St. Martin as technical or medical specialists or assistants. All returning residents of St. Martin and crew members are required to mandatory self-quarantine, meaning self-isolation in your homes for 14 days. You will be monitored by the Department of Health, and anyone, even of course residents who have not recently traveled, experiencing any type of symptoms related to COVID-19 are requested to contact 914 or call your general practitioner, call your doctor. Air and seafaring cargo travel, as has been reported before, will not be affected by these restrictions. This does not mean that any products, services, or goods would not be able to come into St. Martin. As such, I would like to remind the general public to remain calm. Do not go on a binge of shopping. It is totally not necessary. We are not having a hurricane. GEBE is not going to shut down. There will be water, there will be light, there will be internet, and of course we will have to figure out how to coexist for the next 2 weeks at least in a new reality. We have been seeing the reports all over the world, and now it is St. Martin's turn. Let us show true resilience. Let us show true neighborly behavior by not only buying for ourselves, but ensuring that others are able to purchase necessary materials. The government of St. Martin would also like for us, all St. Martiners, to continue to practice social distancing. I have been saying this for some time, and I've noticed in especially personal gatherings, small gatherings, home gatherings, that persons are not adhering to this. Government has taken the necessary steps for persons coming to the government building to get services to ensure that you can be a safe distance from other persons while going about essential business. Essential business will be better described in the press briefing that will be held this evening at 7 p.m. So of course you can look forward to more details coming from government on this. By being extremely careful in how we interact with the public, all persons on St. Martin will be doing everything necessary to protect themselves and their families. As such, avoid gathering in groups where you are unable to maintain a distance of at least 1 meter from the other persons. All institutions, businesses, organizations, religious services, and other entities should adhere to these recommended advices in order to prevent the spread of COVID-19. A regulation will also be put in the public sphere for all to see when this is mandatory. At this time, we continue to engage all relevant stakeholders in various meetings that are currently ongoing within the Ministry of TIAT, the airport, the hotels, the Chamber of Commerce, the SHTA, with all the stakeholders in education to ensure that we can maintain lines of communication between us and the outer world, as well as between schools, between parents, etc. Other stakeholders also need the necessary time to make the arrangements, especially as it pertains to flights and the like, to ensure that all visitors will be able to leave at scheduled times. I implore all visitors to get in contact with your airline to check in via online services to see what arrangements are being made to ensure your repatriation to your country. This is imperative that you do not just rush to the airport to try to get on a flight, as these things must be properly arranged. It is very, very important that we keep the lines of communication open in order to coordinate necessary steps to continue to prepare, prevent, and respond to this international health crisis. The various ESFs are constantly offering updates and are being monitored by the EOC, which is scheduled to meet this afternoon, once again at 4 p.m. A press conference, including the relevant ESF coordinators, will be held later this afternoon, or this evening rather, at 7 p.m. in order to update the public further on the details of the government's response to COVID-19 with the recent developments. As mentioned earlier, the announcement came this morning, even after we'd already taken a decision to put a temporary closure in place, similar to that of the French side. After our meeting with our counterparts, it is clear that we cannot operate as independent nations while we have an invisible border. And in order to avoid having any internal border closures, we have decided as governments of Saint Martin and Saint Martin, since we are both now completely isolating visitors from coming to the island, that we would cooperate in keeping the same regulations. So therefore, the schools, as I mentioned earlier, will be closed as of tomorrow. This will be the week, our first week will be as a vacation, as we know that the carnival vacation, which was upcoming, would still be in place. So we are moving that vacation up for 1 week. After that week, while the schools are making plans, certain essential personnel's children would be able to return to school. This is not going to be a large group, as long as the schools can manage it, as well as the exam classes. We would like to also maintain some semblance of normalcy for those who are taking necessary steps to be able to further their education abroad or move on to tertiary education or from primary to secondary education. All of these details will be worked out in the coming days, and the general public will be apprised of all developments in a timely fashion. In order to be transparent, I have decided to divulge this news, even though I have just heard it, because I understand how the rumor mills as well as social media can work. So I would like to ask the general public, do not share unofficial documents on social media. Listen to St. Martin Gov Radio, the radio stations of St. Martin that are bringing official news, as well as the social media pages of St. Martin government. I am currently awaiting more information pertaining to the case, so this afternoon we should be able to give you some more information, but in order to respect the privacy of our residents, I would like the general public to not necessarily try to hunt out who the current patient is. It is detrimental to our society to not show love and caring to one another. This could be your person. This could be my person. We are all exposed. I would like to encourage each and every person who has traveled in the past week and have noticed that they are having any types of symptoms to please contact 914 and get contact with persons who can tell you whether this is something to be worried about or not. As I've said before, our SLS lab is able to test for over 19 strains of flu as well as other types of coronaviruses. We would be able to rule out and then, if necessary, send the test through Guadeloupe or to the Netherlands to test for COVID-19. It is better that we know than not know. But in advance of not knowing, persons are asked to self-isolate, meaning stay at home, minimize contact even with your own family. If you can be isolated in a room of your house, then that should be the best thing to do. And the rest of the family should do their best to stay away from that person. If it is then confirmed, of course, CPS will have further sessions with the entire family and more persons will need to be tested. So all protocols are in place to properly deal with an outbreak, and CPS and the government of St. Martin is taking all necessary steps to protect, prevent the spread, and mitigate that any other persons would contract. So I'm asking you, once again, remain calm, stay focused on your own hygiene habits, ensure that you are washing your hands often, as well as cleaning down touch points within your home, at your job, and anywhere that you may need to be. Personal hygiene and social distancing, as well as keeping away from unnecessary movement, is the best way for us to control this virus. I will be returning this evening, and until then, may God bless St. Martin and all her people.